So today, two UFC matchups were made, and they are both amazing bouts in two different divisions, so I thought, why not give my reaction to the fights being made, and also a little bit of an early prediction and breakdown on who I think are going to win those bouts, and just my general opinion about the matchups themselves, maybe different matchups that I would have gone with, but they are amazing fights, I'm not complaining. Two big ones, we've got Michael Chiesa versus Sean Brady, which has been added to the fight night on November the 20th, and we've also got another matchup between Brad Riddell and Rafael Fiziev on a fight night on December the 4th. These two fights are amazing, okay? Now, maybe more so for Riddell versus Fiziev. Don't get me wrong, I like Chiesa versus Sean Brady, but it's just, it doesn't quite have that same pop to it when I say the names of those fights out loud compared to Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev. Listen to that fight. Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev. It's just something about those two names together, knowing who they are as fighters, that just guarantees an absolutely amazing bout. But we're going to start with the more recent bout that was made between Michael Chiesa and Sean Brady, November 20th on a fight night. Of course, Michael Chiesa, it's good to see him take a little bit more of a quicker turnaround, in all honesty, because, you know, he only got choked out by Luque. I know he took a bad loss, but he didn't really take too much damage in that fight. He didn't get concussed, he didn't get beaten up, he didn't go 5 hard rounds and get a win. So he got choked out in the first round, took relatively no damage whatsoever. He wants to get right back in there against Sean Brady. I have no idea why he's going after Sean Brady. I think that's a very risky move, in all honesty. I think there are guys higher up the rankings that maybe are a little bit of an easier matchup for Michael Chiesa. In all honesty, after watching Gilbert Burns take down Wonderboy Thompson and control him on the ground, I thought that Michael Chiesa was going to maybe look at Wonderboy for a matchup, but I guess Wonderboy is not ready to go in November and Chiesa wants to stay active. So, great matchup, Chiesa versus Sean Brady, two ranked contenders in the welterweight division, and it's an amazing division as well. Sean Brady at number 13, Michael Chiesa at number 7. I guess it actually does make a little bit of sense because Chiesa has moved down those rankings quite a little bit now, and if he does get a win, he's right back in the mix, right back looking for a top 5 guy to get him towards that title shot again, and I think he understands that, man. I know, I'm kind of glad that we've got him coming back, because in all honesty, Michael Chiesa, he has other opportunities outside the UFC. He's been fighting for a while now. I'm sure he's made a little bit of money for himself, so it's actually good to see him back in there, because I was worried that maybe we would see him retire, because his whole game plan was to get to the belt, win the title, make some money, and then retire from the sport. And after he lost to Luque so embarrassingly in the first round and got submitted by the guy who, let's be honest, I know that Luque's got nasty submissions and a really nasty arse choke. To get submitted when you're the jiu-jitsu expert, I mean, that's kind of like Jermaine Durandamy submitting Juliana Pena. However, I do understand Luque's got some dangerous arse chokes, but this matchup is really good. I feel as though Michael Chiesa is going to get one over on Sean Brady here. I like Sean Brady. I just think Chiesa's a lot better than him, because I've been watching Sean Brady's fights and I know he's undefeated and he does have a really good record, but man, Sean Brady does have some really, really close ones, and I don't like how close they are, in all honesty. If you go back and watch the Court McGee fight, maybe he landed bigger punches in the rounds where he did win, but it was an extremely, extremely close fight. I thought he won the first and second round before losing the third. But, like, Court McGee outlanded him in the second round and threw way more shots, but Sean Brady got a couple of takedowns here and there. Couldn't really establish any control time, but he got a knockdown in one of the rounds that secured him that round quite heavily. Sean Brady's very good, and maybe Court McGee's just one of these Clay Guida type guys where it's just very, very difficult to look good against them, but man, I like Sean Brady. I think he's very good, but there are certain fights in his career where things don't go so amazingly well, including his last one against Jake Matthews. He got a third round submission, I understand, but in the first 2 rounds of that bout, it was relatively competitive, in all honesty. I mean, he was on top, landing some total strikes, but he's really not completely dominating these guys, and they're not amazing guys to not be dominating. I think Michael Chiesa would be able to take down Court McGee in the first round and submit him with a rear naked choke. I think he'd be able to do the same thing to Jake Matthews as well. Michael Chiesa is extremely underrated in the welterweight division. I know he lost to Kevin Lee by rear naked choke, and that loss has now aged terribly for Michael Chiesa, but I do believe that Michael Chiesa, he showed some improvements in his stand-up against Vicente Luque. He got an amazing takedown against Luque as well. I think he might be able to go out there, have a bit of a close first round with Sean Brady, where maybe Brady gets the better of the scrambles and ends up on top, and is a little bit of a stronger guy in the grappling situations. But I think as this fight goes on into the second and third round, Brady does slow down if you put a pace on him. And I think that maybe Michael Chiesa could go out there with a pace-based game plan and just try and beat Sean Brady over the duration of the fight with the later scrambles in rounds 2 and 3. I think Brady might go out there, land some good shots on the feet here and there. Chiesa lands a couple of good shots as well. Brady gets a takedown. Chiesa gets back up against the cage, goes for a couple scrambles, tries to turn it around and take the back of Brady. Brady ends up on top, wins the scrambles in the first round because he's a lot more of an explosive guy. He's younger as well. He's also coming off an injury for a broken foot, so I actually have no idea how this works. Wait, hang on. Didn't Sean Brady pull out of the Kevin Lee fight for a broken foot last week? And now conveniently he's got himself a top 10 matchup instead? That's interesting. But I guess it is quite far away, so maybe he's still recovering. It's not a bad injury. Maybe he's just got a really badly bruised and swollen foot rather than a broken one. But I could have sworn that he said he pulled out with a broken foot. And that seems to be a very quick recovery time. So that's somewhat of a worry. If I was Michael Chiesa, I'd go out there with an Usman-type game plan and go stomping on those toes to make sure that foot really is broken. But I don't believe Sean Brady's going to get this one done. I do believe in Michael Chiesa. I think he's a very good guy. I saw what he did to Neil Magny. After watching what Sean Brady struggled to do to Jake Matthews, I don't know if he'd be able to out-grapple Neil Magny. I think Chiesa being able to do what Sean Brady does, but to top 10 opponents and top 15 opponents, I think he's going to go out there and get the job done against Sean Brady. And the winner of this one is in a real good position. If Sean Brady wins, he's going to be an undefeated contender in the top 10 of the welterweight division. I think whoever wins this one should be looking at names like Gilbert Burns. If Michael Chiesa can win this in November, and Gilbert Burns still does not have an opponent, because I feel like he's kind of the odd man out right now in the welterweight division, if I was Chiesa, I'd win this one, go up above Masvidal in the rankings, maybe even above Wonderboy as well if he stays inactive, who knows. Then look to maybe get a fight with Gilbert Burns, and all of a sudden, if you're a new name for Usman, and there's a bunch of guys that he's already beaten in the rankings, you're all of a sudden getting a title shot with 2 more wins. I know Chiesa was close, but I think he can very easily get that title shot back for himself, and I rate him for staying active. I rate him for taking this fight with Sean Brady. I think he can actually get the better of it over the 3 rounds. He is a wet blanket on top, and I think his pace of grappling and the amount of scrambles that he goes for could outpace Sean Brady, who's a little bit more muscle-bound and explosive. Moving on to another fight that got made, in my opinion, a more interesting one. Brad Riddell versus Rafael Fiziev. Oh, this is what fights are made. This is why the sport was created. To put Brad Riddells against Rafael Fizievs. This is great. December 4th. The only thing I'm annoyed about is how far away it is, but I will take it in all honesty because Rafael Fiziev just went 3 hard rounds with Bobby Green. I'm sure he wants a little bit of time off, but he also wants to secure himself a ranked opponent next, rather than being dealt like a bad card and having to take on a guy on the come-up. But great matchup in the lightweight division. You've got number 12 Brad Riddell versus number 13 Rafael Fiziev right next to each other in the rankings. I'm going to go with Brad Riddell here. I know people are extremely, extremely high on Rafael Fiziev, but I'll tell you this. At this point, you shouldn't be making it that close against Bobby Green. There's an argument for him losing the first round against Bobby Green. I thought Rafael Fiziev won the first 2 rounds, lost the third round, and it should have been a 29-28. One judge gave him 30-27, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I have no understanding how they can have that scorecard. Even still, I think Brad Riddell's got what it takes here to beat Rafael Fiziev. If Bobby Green can do what he did, and don't get me wrong, Bobby Green's good, but he's a little bit more boxing heavy, has a little bit more of a simplistic striking style, and he's very good at what he does. But I think Brad Riddell in that third round is a different kind of hitter. We saw that against Drew Dober. I mean, I haven't seen Drew Dober rocked. I've rarely seen Drew Dober rocked in his career, and Riddell put him on real wobbly legs in that fight, and Drew Dober, look at the size of his fucking head. He has an iron jaw, okay? I feel as though if Rafael Fiziev starts to slow down in that third round, he could be in some real trouble against Brad Riddell. And there's some history here as well, because Brad Riddell used to train at Tiger Muay Thai as well. Rafael Fiziev, I guess, would have been his striking coach there if they were training there at the same time, which I believe they were, because they're similar ages, similar timelines in their career. I feel like Brad Riddell maybe would have been taught striking by Rafael Fiziev, so maybe that gives Fiziev a little bit of an advantage, knowing what Brad Riddell does, knowing how he looks. He's maybe held pads for Brad Riddell before, probably done some sparring rounds with Brad Riddell. They're going to know each other very well, but I think Brad Riddell is spotting himself a great matchup here against Rafael Fiziev, because there's one thing that Riddell can do. It's push extremely, extremely hard in the third round of bouts, and that's kind of what he's known to do in his career. Against Jamie Mullarkey in his debut, he went out there, first 2 rounds, a little bit risky, both guys landing good shots, but the third round comes around, Brad Riddell starts absolutely torturing Jamie Mullarkey, and I have no idea to this day how Mullarkey survived that third round. First round's a bit close. Second round, Riddell starts to pull ahead. Third round, he's beating the absolute shit out of Jamie Mullarkey. Even against Magomed Mustafayev, had a great third round compared to the first 2. Outlanded Magomed Mustafayev 18-4 on significant strikes. Of course, Magomed Mustafayev, also the man who very, very well known, very famously spinning back kicked Rafael Fiziev in the face and TKO'd him in the first round. I'm not saying that's how this fight is going to work, and that MMA math means that Brad Riddell now beats Rafael Fiziev, because that's not how it works whatsoever. Magomed Mustafayev didn't land a perfect spinning back kick to the face of Brad Riddell. If he did, I'm sure he would have gone down in the first round. I just think it's a bad matchup for Fiziev, because Riddell is an absolute monster in the third round. He turned it on against Alex Da Silva as well. Kind of got robbed by the referee in that fight. I remember there's something happening there where the referee made a bit of a bad decision, gave a bit of a timeout that wasn't really necessary. But then again, we'll see how it goes, man. It's a close fight. Maybe Fiziev can do enough early to make sure that he wins, but I think Riddell's going to be able to tough out some of the damage that Fiziev gives out, because let's be real, Fiziev, he is powerful, but he doesn't seem to be switching people off so much. And Renato Moicano's kind of a chinny guy, and that was a little bit of an early stoppage as well. So I feel as though Fiziev's going to go out there, land a bunch of explosive techniques in the first round. Riddell's going to be digging to the body, go into the legs. I think Riddell's body work is going to be huge here, and we saw that against Drew Dober in their fight that they had, because that's kind of the way that Brad Riddell won that fight against Drew Dober. He was the smarter guy over the 3 rounds. He kept going to the body, eventually cracking Drew Dober on the chin in the third round. I think his body work's going to be huge here. He landed great shots to the body against Dober, and I think if he can get some body shots on Rafael Fiziev, even maybe while losing the early parts of these rounds, in round 1, I think he's going to lose. In the first half of round 2, I think he's going to be losing that round as well. If he can get in some body shots and get in some leg kicks as well, knowing that Fiziev's not going to try and take him down, I think he can put on the pressure in the third. And that problem that Fiziev has, where he constantly gasses in the third round, I could definitely see him getting the better of Fiziev. And let's not be dumb here. Brad Riddell shoots takedowns as well. He's great at grappling. He's got good CKB grappling. I have no idea what they're doing over there at City Kickboxing, but their grappling is absolutely amazing. Defended takedowns for 3 rounds against Magomed Mustafayev. Didn't let him advance position whatsoever. Shot 5 takedowns against Drew Dober. Got 5 takedowns against Drew Dober. Shot 11 of them. But still, he's mixing in those takedowns. 2.5 minutes of control time. I think he can mix it up enough and also land enough body shots in the early 2 rounds to really make Fiziev, who's usually a slower opponent in the third, be an absolute shell of himself in the third round. And I can see Brad Riddell going for the finish and actually finishing this one in the third round by TKO. I think that's a very good bet to make. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Can't wait for these matchups. Click that button up there. Great fights. I wouldn't have made Brad Riddell versus Drew Dober, in all honesty. I would have maybe looked at making Brad Riddell, Gregor Gillespie, I wouldn't have made Riddell versus Fiziev. I would have looked at making maybe Brad Riddell versus Gregor Gillespie. Riddell's got great takedown defense, get rid of a grappler in the division, because I'm worried that Ferguson's going to be given Gregor Gillespie, and he's going to lose, obviously, because his management hate him. I feel bad for Ferguson. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.